What's something most people think is healthy but actually isn't, in your opinion?
Electrolyte drinks.
Yeah, I already touched on that. That was a good one.
Saturated fat, beef tallow, butter. Those things are absolutely awful for your cardiovascular health.
Interesting.
Yes.
Wow, that's another one where the push has been beef tallow.
Right. And you're hearing that from grifters
Yeah.
in the biohack space that have no clinical expertise. They don't know, either they have a narrative, they're trying to push something, or they don't know how to clinically appraise research. So we can talk about this because this is something that I'm very, very passionate about.
Let's talk about it.
Okay. So from a dietary perspective, there's not a ton of things out there that are taboo, right? One of them, though, is saturated fat. Saturated fat will directly raise your LDL cholesterol, and even more accurately, ApoB. So ApoB, wait.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go. Keep going. Keep
Okay.
going.
I'm going to give you guys, this is an analogy that I like to use. So actually, the new cardiology cholesterol guidelines just came out. And they are bringing up some good points, but I still think they have some room for improvement. So LDL cholesterol and ApoB is causal for heart disease. So let me just start with that. You do not need inflammation. You do not need insulin resistance to have a heart attack or stroke, okay? Those people that are telling you that you need those components, the chicken or the egg, we know there's insurmountable amount of evidence that supports that elevated LDL cholesterol is causal for heart disease.
Wow.
Okay? So LDL cholesterol is a measurement that we've been using that measures the concentration of cholesterol inside these particles, these LDL particles. Cholesterol cannot travel through the bloodstream on its own. It needs this spherical protein structure that transports the cholesterol. It's called low-density lipoprotein, LDL cholesterol. The way that it's calculated in a lab is you churn that up and then you harvest the cholesterol concentration. The reason why that's not super accurate and it's more relevant in our society today is because we have a growing, obesity problem, a metabolic problem. And I'll touch on why that's important. ApoB, so I'm going to create an analogy. I want you to think about your LDL cholesterol like an M&M. Okay?
Love M&Ms.
Okay, I love M&Ms too. So the shell of your M&M is the LDL particle, that harbors the cholesterol. The chocolate is the cholesterol. The M on the M&M is ApoB. Okay? So you picture that you have different, this isn't the best analogy for this particular reference, but M&Ms come in different sizes and shapes. Then you got the mini M&Ms, the smaller ones, the bigger ones. So LDL cholesterol measures the amount of chocolate in there, but if you have really tiny M&Ms, what's the problem? You're not gonna have much chocolate, right? So your LDL cholesterol number is gonna be artificially low, but what drives heart disease is the number of particles themselves. But what does each M&M have? The M on the M&M. So it's the number of particles themselves, not necessarily the amount of chocolate inside is what drives LDL cholesterol. So you can have for example, a high ApoB level and a low LDL cholesterol. And the reason for that is one of the first things to change in our metabolism is the size and shape of these lipoproteins, LDL. When you become more metabolically unhealthy, these particles, the LDL particles, get smaller and smaller. Okay? So if you check your LDL cholesterol, just looking at the chocolate, not looking at the candy, the particle, the candy shell, could be low, right? But
It's not giving you the full picture.
Not giving you the full picture. So we have this thing, it's called discordance, where your LDL cholesterol can be not at an alarming level, but your ApoB can be high. It's the number of particles. So I love lipidology. I'll geek out on it all day, but just remember, you don't need insulin resistance. You don't need inflammation. It's the particle number itself that the particles that drive into the arterial wall. The arterial wall can be very healthy. In fact, it is healthy. These particles, the particles can be big, small, it doesn't matter. Like there's this people say that, oh, the big and fluffy LDL cholesterol particles, those are safe. No, all of them can transcend through the particle wall given the size, all of them. So it's the number themselves. So what raises ApoB, what gives you more M&Ms? Saturated fat. Eating lots of saturated fat will raise ApoB. So what are things that are rich in saturated fat?
Tell us.
Butter is pure saturated fat. Ghee is pure saturated fat. Beef tallow. Fatty meats, right?
All the delicious
All
things.
the delicious stuff. And then, not to overcomplicate things, but it used to be thought, if you see people, I'll just give you some advice. If you don't know how to critically appraise evidence-based research, and I don't expect 99% of the population to be able to do this, but if you see people with conflicting sides of the story, oh, it's this, oh, it's this. Science, the more you know about a topic, the more you understand that there's nuance to everything. It's never black and white in science, right? So it used to be thought that dietary cholesterol had a huge impact in the cholesterol that you see in LDL, ApoB. And then it swung the other way that, no, it doesn't have any impact. So you can eat as many eggs as you want, right? Because eggs are super rich in cholesterol. Shrimp, you know. So for the majority of the population, dietary cholesterol has very little effect on your LDL cholesterol. That's the majority of the population. But there about 30% of the population, which is not insignificant, they're called what we call hyperabsorbers of cholesterol, and it does have a meaningful impact on your blood cholesterol level. So you could eat 7 eggs a day.
And be okay.
I could eat 7 eggs and it makes mine go up.
How do we find that out?
You could experiment, test it out yourself, eat eggs on a regular basis and isolate all the other food products to make sure that you're accounting for everything, and then retest your blood work. I always recommend doing blood work regularly. That's part of my
How often?
It depends what you're doing. If it's just maintenance and there's no intervention being made, every 6 months. If you're under targeted pharmacotherapy, hormones, whatever it may be, I may need to check it within a couple weeks, a month, but everyone's different. But I would say the general rule of thumb, the general population should be getting their blood work checked. And this is surprising, like every 6 months you should get your blood work done. And if not, at least annually. And don't wait, and if you're a younger population that's listening to this podcast, don't wait until you're 35 years old to get your first blood work checked. You need to be checking much younger. Like start getting your blood work checked in your early 20s. And if for anything, establishing a baseline of what your optimal levels are. Like what is your testosterone whenever you're 24, 25? If I had that information when I was 24, 25, it would be so invaluable because I know where my numbers would need to be when I was at my peak, optimal level output of testosterone. Yep. Now I have to go based off of signs and symptoms, et cetera. I don't know what it was, right? I didn't start checking my testosterone until I was 35 years old. So if anything, you want to check it earlier.
I wish I started earlier. I just started doing it.
Yeah.
And it's so cool to see, man. I've seen from my first test to my second test, I made some changes and I saw a difference in the blood work.
I love that, bro.
My testosterone went up. My ApoB was a little elevated. That went down.
You doing the Rhythm Health?
Yeah, okay. I went through Rhythm.
Okay,
good.
And
so it was like, I think 3 months spread out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw it. I saw it in the blood work.
It's a very powerful tool to be checking things in real time. You now have objective outcome measurements rather than just going based off subjectively how you feel. Because a lot of these markers pay no attention to how you feel. You could feel great and your ApoB could be through the roof. And unfortunately, that's what happens. You know how many fit guys I've taken care of on carnivore diets that drop dead from a heart attack? All the time. I see this all the time.
Dude, I drank the Kool-Aid on the carnivore. So many people did.
Well, it's okay.
You
as
see
long
Paul
as you don't...
Saladino once,
Oh
and that's it.
Poor Paul Saladino.
And he's staying true to it though.
He's actually not. If you look at it, no, his diet's changed. First it was only meat, and now I'm eating fruit, and like he's had health issues. I mean, I'm sure he may not disclose that, but please, guys, I mean, Paul Saladino, he's very articulate, he's very entertaining, but his information is false.
I love it. That brings me to my next question. This flows perfectly. How different can two people be under the surface? Like similar, two 20-year-old guys, both fit. How different can they be under the surface?
A lot. One good analogy that I like to use for that is, and this is entirely genetically predetermined. So how much organ fat do you have, which is what we call visceral fat. And I alluded to this earlier. A way that you can determine how much visceral fat you have is doing something called a DEXA scan. It does a full body composition. It tells you how much skeletal mass you have, how much subcutaneous fat, which is the fat that you see, and then visceral fat, which is what lines the organs. So I know you can tell me that you've seen a morbidly, we don't use the term morbid obesity anymore, but a very overweight person that doesn't have metabolic syndrome, or as far as you know, they don't have diabetes, right? Can you think of someone like that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, that's not on any meds.
Where they're not
diabetes.
Diagnosed with
Right.
diabetes, yeah,
Right.
for sure.
And then you know someone that's like super skinny that's diabetic, that's
Yeah.
not type 1 diabetic, right?
Oh, yeah, more than one.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you why that is. There are a number of reasons, but just to simplify things. So I like to use the bathtub analogy. So everybody has their own personal fat threshold. So think about the bathtub in your house as your safe fat haven for storage. Your adipose tissue, your subcutaneous fat. Everybody has a different size bathtub. Water is the fat itself being compartmentalized inside the fat tissue. So as soon as that water spills over onto the hardwood floor, it's causing damage to your house, right?
Yes.
So if you have a very shallow bathtub, it's going to get onto the floor easier and quicker, right? Because fat is all about fuel partitioning, right? So where is it being? It's excess calories that are not being utilized as fuel. So it needs to go somewhere. It either goes to insulation and fat that you can see, or it goes to organ fat, visceral fat, which is harmful. Everybody has their own different size bathtub. So if your bathtub is shallow, it's going to spill all out onto the floor, and that represents your visceral fat. It's going to cause damage. But then you could have someone that has a huge bathtub. They can carry a ton of fat. That can store a bunch of energy, and it's relatively safe from a metabolic standpoint. Now, being overweight in general can cause other issues, but strictly from a metabolic standpoint, you can see people that do not develop. The main cause of insulin resistance is your organs get marbled with fat. It causes dysfunction directly to those organs. So, like I said, the organ fat is an endocrine organ, and it causes inflammatory particles to causes damage, oxidation and stuff within the organ itself. So your pancreas isn't going to work well. Your liver's not going to work well.
It's so interesting. I wonder why certain people have bigger bathtubs. Like evolutionary, was there
Maybe. But I mean, all of it plays together, right? I mean, you can't ignore all the other lifestyle tactics too, because that can accelerate the process. You get crappy sleep, you develop more insulin resistance. You eat refined carbohydrates all the time, you're going to, just refined foods, you're going to develop insulin resistance. You're not adequately muscled, muscle is the longevity currency. It's the kitchen sink for sugar. It's the buffer for sugar.